WFUZ-TV, Coastal Alabama, Northwest Florida.
Hello, welcome to WFUZ-TV. I'm Blair Castro, and I'm here with Thomas Jenkins. Today, on the People's Voice podcast, we have Mayor Tony Kennon, who is the mayor of Orange Beach, Alabama. Mayor Kennon, thank you so much for joining us today and coming here to Gulf Shores to be on our podcast with us. It's very awesome.
No, thank y'all. I enjoy the opportunity to interact with folks in any medium that we can. I want to know where we stand and how I can help them. So thank y'all.
Yeah, you're the second currently in office elected official here, which I just think is awesome that you'd be willing to come out and do this. It speaks a lot to your character, so I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So we wanted to talk about your run for re-election. We're having a vote here in all the municipalities in Alabama on August 26th, and you are running for re-election. And I just wanted to have you talk a little bit about why you're seeking re-election again and what changes or things you would like to stay the same in your city of Orange Beach.
Well, I'm running on my record. I feel like I have a pretty darn detailed record of crisis management, with financial crisis of '08, oil spill, COVID, Hurricane Sally. I was involved with Hurricane Ivan, the spring break debacle as we kind of moved to protected our family-friendly brand, would not let us become an MTV-style spring break. So I feel my record is very sound and proven when it comes to crisis management. I think that I run the city very much in a business-like fashion. My decisions are made with logic and reason and on the facts, not emotion. They're not for political reasons. It's not to be liked or disliked. It's just a decision made that's in the best interest of our city. And I can do that because I have no aspirations for higher office. So making someone mad at me because I made a business decision is okay with me. Being a politician, you're more concerned about votes and who likes you than you are actually paying attention to business. So I don't think anybody can accuse me of being a politician. But I want us to keep rolling in the fashion we're rolling, in the way we treat people, protecting our family-friendly brand, which is absolutely paramount. Life is better here is our motto, and life is better here because traditional values, conservative values, we're essentially old, and we believe in you got to be safe, you got to be protected, and our city's got to be clean. If you can't commit to those things, then you really can't commit to anything else customer service-wise. So those are things I want to continue, and at some time I hope to find somebody that I can hand this role off to that will continue those same, or have those same values and continue those same ideals. But, a lot of times I come from things as a resident as much as I do a candidate. And I have not found that person yet to take that role that will stand up and protect Orange Beach and not worry about anything else.
One of the things you said that struck me was you were talking about preventing spring break from becoming just out of control. I'm sure you saw all the headlines in PCB this summer. What are some of the strategies that you've used over the years to do that, and what are you doing to continue to prevent things like that in the future? Well,
6 years ago, Panama City was trying to cut back. They had a really bad run of press on their spring break. Through social media, we found out that all the college had been promoting Gulf Shores Orange Beach for the next spring break destination. And we said that we're not a good place to come. So we immediately went on media blitz, and we made it very clear that there was no do-overs, no mulligans, no pour-outs. You come to Orange Beach, you break the law, you're going to jail. Mm-hmm. And I don't guess they believed us, because the first year they did come, and we had over 1,000 arrests. Mm-hmm. And this year, we had 35. So the point being is we didn't allow MTV to come in. We didn't allow all this stuff that goes along with spring break to come in and use our beaches. And the good side, initially when we took that stand, some of the businesses was concerned. But I said, if y'all will be patient and we protect our family-friendly brand, we will see families come, because families are looking for, I call us a sanctuary city for families. Mm-hmm. And over time, they found out we did not put up with that type of nonsense during spring break. So we started backfilling all of that with families. So now our numbers are fantastic for spring break, but it's not kids, it's families. And that's what we want. But that's just one example of you got to protect your brand. You can't prostitute it for a buck.
Sure.
You can't compromise it. You got to stand by who you are and not be willing to compromise that.
Yeah, for sure. And I come from a very small law enforcement background, but one of the things I notice about Orange Beach is there's always been, in my 16 years coming here and working here and living around here, there's always been a good, healthy police presence, but not an overbearing amount, but just the right amount to show proactivity and keep everything level.
Thank you for that, because we try to, 80-something% of all of our tickets are warnings. So we're not heavy-handed at all with
We
my
just talked about that the other day, and I said, well, you don't want to become the town that's the pass-through for revenue, and you want that presence, but at the same time, you don't want to be known as the town to, be careful because they're just out for revenue.
Absolutely, we don't. But my officers know that I back them to the hilt, and there is a line that someone cannot cross. If they cross that line, and you need to take them to jail, you take them to jail. Now, you can smile and be nice to them,
Right.
But you take them to jail. They can't cross that line.
Right.
But other than that, if they're respectful and nice, be nice back and cut them some slack. And that's what we try to do.
Yeah.
That's what we try to do.
Officer discretion is beautiful.
Absolutely. And we have officers that we trust. And personally, I want more officers than we need, because I want that visual is just as important
100%.
than anything else.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I agree with that.
I don't like to see an under-resourced department.
Well, we try hard. And today, police officers are hard to find.
Sure.
I mean, it has become so difficult to be a police officer, and I have such respect for them. And, but, if I could hire 15 more, we would.
Yes.
Because I think people notice, again, they're safe, they're protected, and we're clean. The city's clean.
Yes.
So
There's also a very good balance of enforcement and engagement from your police. It's not just enforcement, like you also have them out at the block parties, out in the community doing stuff. They're very visible in both respects, and I think that speaks a lot to how well the city is run.
well, thank you. A lot of that has to do with Chief Brown over the years, who has done such a great job with being a public liaison to the department and teaching his officers how to do the same thing. And it means a lot. You know how that is. It's back in my day, in the 60s, we had officers that was coaching ball, always involved in the community, and they were the heroes. And that's what we teach our children. Our police officers and first responders, they're heroes. They're not the bad guys.
Yes.
And we stand strong by that. And again, I think people feel that and get that and appreciate it very much. But thank you for noticing that.
Yeah, you can't build a community that grows that fast without having proper security infrastructure. You just can't.
Exactly. And we have exploded. I mean, it's almost like we're a victim of our own success. That everybody wants to be there. And everybody's talking about growth. And I understand that completely. I'm a resident. You got to remember, I live there and probably drive those streets more than anybody in that city does. So I get it. But, Alabama state law, you can't just stop building. You'll get sued and lose. There's in Alabama, if you own property, you have a right to build based on the zoning of that property. Now, since the time I came into office, we have managed growth because we have not upzoned any of our properties from a low density to a high density. That was something that used to be done. So you wouldn't take a residential piece of property and rezone it and allow a condo to go there. No, you're residential, you got to build a residence. So I've done that for 17 years, and that's how I've tried to manage growth as best I can. But I've got some more ideas for the future that I want to flesh out and see if we can't get it under a bit more control. But there's some infrastructure projects that I'm working really hard with Washington and with the state of Alabama on that I think will help eliminate bottlenecks in the movement of our traffic. So if I can get that done, and I think we've got a good chance. Our senators are good friends to the coast, Coach Tobeville and Senator Brett. Jerry Cole was always a friend to us as a congressman. We got great help in Montgomery. So I think we're getting there. And if we can, there's two projects. If I get those two projects instituted and get them funded and done, I think we'll be in good shape moving traffic anyway.
Can you tell a little bit about if there's any inter-municipality effort for traffic flow and things like between Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, Foley, and places like that?
Yeah, the difficulty is most of it's state roads, the major arteries. So you have to bring ALDOT into it, and ALDOT, you got to have, their funding is going where they decide it's going, not where we think it needs to go. So, Canal Road between Gulf Shores, Orange Beach is state. Beach Road, state. The expressway now is state. 59 is state. So, we really have to create a united front to go to Montgomery to convince them that this is in the best interest of all the cities. But, let me digress slightly. These beaches are the state of Alabama's beaches, and that's what I continue to tell our elected officials in Montgomery and in Washington. And our goal is to present a wonderful image, and we already are a huge tax base for Montgomery. So we're a big part of the overall state effort to promote Alabama as a very special, sophisticated, and conservative state. But it sometimes myself and Robert Kraft got sideways on the bridge over here, and we admit we just had a differing of opinion. Then it got heated, but at the same time, 99% of the other we get along, or we have the same goal and move forward to the same goal. But it is difficult. But I do think we have common interests in moving traffic east to west more freely. But also, we need another bridge. We got one coming, but we need to know. And hopefully, I'm going to make that happen.
Do you feel like that the current administrations that are in place now are that team that could be effective to go to Montgomery, or would you like to see some change arounds?
I really don't want to get into any other city's politics. I think for the same reason there's folks in the Gulf Shores that would think I would not be the person they would want to work with, and I can understand that. Because I could be hard to get along with sometimes. I get that. But there's folks over there, and I've spoken to every one of the candidates in the mayoral race, and there's nobody over there that I cannot work with or would not be willing to work with. But with me, if I'm reelected, they at least have a known commodity. They know what they're getting. So,
yes.
But the good of the island is number one priority. Good of the island.
I was just thinking that, going back to what you said about zoning, I think development is the hot button issue in this race. That's why a lot of us are running. For me, we had Jack Robertson in here too, and he mentioned this, and I think people forget that sometimes you can't downzone things. They're gonna sue the city. You can't just say, oh, we can't make this happen. Like, that's their right, and if it's zoned properly. And a lot of us who are kind of like slow down the development, at least on this side of the bridge, we're not necessarily saying that. And it's good to hear you kind of recognize the distinction there too. And development is not bad, and I don't think anybody really thinks it is. We need good, growth, but I think it's a matter of timing and strategy, and it takes different people with different views. And I think it's okay too to disagree on the strategy for development and for infrastructure, keeping up with it. And that seems to be where the distinction is. So I feel like this cycle has really labeled people as anti-development, pro-development, but really it's more like we have different strategies. Not necessarily we all don't want any growth, because I think growth is necessarily, something we need.
And I don't disagree at all. It's the extremes when you hear folks, and Facebook is the worst, stop growth. Well, they need to do their research and understand you can't do that. You're not legally, you can't do that. Can you moderate it? Can you manage it? Absolutely you can. And there's ways to do that. But like we have a moratorium in place on multi-family to evaluate how, if everything that is zoned is built out, how would that affect us infrastructure-wise, school-wise, and in every other way. But to put a moratorium on building, any moratorium has to be well-defined, a problem identified, solutions identified, and a time limit. You just can't have an infinite moratorium on building. That state law prevents that. So what we are trying to do is look through the build-out and see, sewer plant, we're going to have to expand it. School, we're going to have to expand it. What's going to happen at the Canal Road and 161 Junction with that bottleneck if we have another 7,000 units come online? What zoning changes can we make? So there's a lot of investigation and study to be done to try to come up with something that's just not a knee-jerk political decision that make people feel good. It's really trying to come up with something that is effective and efficient in the way it's done.
I definitely agree, and I think that there's so much. I'm not as familiar with Orange Beach planning and zoning as I am here in Gulf Shores. But what's interesting is that, like, I think I would say halt or like pause the growth and just let infrastructure catch up. I don't think anybody is really saying like, let's stop it, but it's painted, and when people go in the comments, they argue about it. It's like, let's just stop everything entirely but that's not good. And I think about businesses and, commercial wise, I would like to see different growth come in and different things brought here. But for me, like, the key issue is those residential ones that have a lot of different units or are really large structures that maybe the community doesn't want. And it's a feedback process. Like, what does the community think before we put it in? Do we have the traffic flow and the lights and the utilities to support that?
Right.
And I think it requires a lot of thought. And I'm glad that Orange Beach is thinking about that very thoroughly. I think people here are thinking about it too, but I think different people just disagree on the different methods. But I do commend Orange Beach for their ability to seemingly get it together quicker than some of the other municipalities.
Well, I think it really is management, and we've known, I guess after COVID, it seems like, or after Sally, things just exploded. And when they explode and property values go up 30% a year or whatever it was, it's hard to catch up. It's hard to stay ahead of it because it takes time infrastructure-wise. So in some fashion, we're all in a catch-up mode. What I would love to see is a county-wide meeting, and because there's such inter-county movement that depends on everyone coming together and working, okay, where do we need to put our money? Where do we need to improve to at least make the major arterial flow better? And I just think at some point it'd be great if the county and all the municipalities got together and started looking at the hot spots, the problem spots. Because even though we're on the beach, if there's an issue at I-10 in Spanish Fort, that affects us because our visitors have to come through that area, and it's backed up 3-4 miles to the Bayway. Well, that's not a good thing. So I want to be part of that solution and help out up there because it helps our folks. Because traffic is a real bummer.
I was going to ask, is that the most pressing thing that people come to you with? Or is there something else that supersedes even that?
Well, traffic growth and traffic go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And the difficult part, because we're just not the typical city. We don't have the 8 to 5 predictable Monday through Friday, 7 days a week, 365 days a year type of pattern. We got its peak and then fall. Mm-hmm. Well, they'll say you can't build a church for Easter Sunday. Applies. Like 4th of July, it was god awful.
It was.
What do? You can't build roadways to accommodate that traffic for just one weekend or 2 weekends out of the year. There's certain weekends we're just going to have to understand there is no way to manage it. You just, as a local, you got to know when not to be on the road and when not to go, or go to the mountains on the 4th of July, something like that. But we are trying to, the other 80-90% of the year, have roadways and infrastructure that manage, whether it be traffic, whether it be sewer, water, whatever, that we're in great shape. And it is a balancing act because, again, 4th of July, I drove nonstop for 4 days and it was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. So I get it, I understand. But I don't know how you fix that when you have 120,000 people, out at your beach and
for sure.
They're coming. So
Pensacola's going through that right now with Blue Angel Weekend. It's like you can't do anything. That's Blue Angel Weekend. It's going to be a disaster.
Well, there's one other thing too. When people talk about the condos being built, every single condo that's been built in 17 years was built on property zoned condo. Mm-hmm. They had the right to build a condo. It was zoned that 30 years ago.
It was.
And so, you can't. We work with them, and most of the developers work with us on design and footprint to try to environmentally do the best job we can with water retention and runoff and things of that nature. But if it's zoned condo and they want to build a condo, you can't stop them from building a condo. So it makes it hard. A lot of people just don't understand that. Deny that, they come before the planning commission and say, well, y'all just deny it. Well, you can't. If they check off all the boxes based on the zoning, you legally have to approve it. That's called by right. And a lot of folks just don't understand that, and it makes it difficult on those of us that are trying to. We have to abide by the law, but we do understand their grief, and we have empathy there, but we still have to abide by the law.
And this is a heavily conservative Republican type area. I know for me too, that's one thing I constantly try to balance with. We would never want to violate private property rights. We don't want to strip people of their rights. But at the same time, it's like hard to balance because you definitely want what's best for everyone sometimes. But to me, the individual liberties and rights we have are so paramount in everything we do. So you really have to look at it holistically. And I think it's more difficult than people tend to recognize at first.
And I agree completely because I'm a staunch conservative and I absolutely believe in everybody's property rights. But unfortunately, a lot of times people throw out property rights as a populist rant when in reality they don't define what property rights mean. And property rights have a definition and they have limits and they have parameters. It's just not you build anything you want to on your property.
Right.
That's not property right. Property right is you have the right to own property, you have the right to develop it, but you only have the right to do it by what you're allowed once you come into that incorporated entity such as a city. Now, in an unincorporated such as a county where there's no zoning, that's a different story. Pretty much build anything you want. But once you come into a city, your property rights are defined for you.
I actually don't know the answer to this, so I'm asking purely for my own education here. I know that in the state of Alabama and the county necessarily, with their planning and zoning committee, how it's made up, they have like a cap of 3 people in real estate or development. I would like to see that in Gulf Shores. What do you think, what is the kind of makeup or structure in your city?
For planning commission?
Yes.
Planning commission is pretty much dictated by state law. Each position is, there's a city employee, a council person, or a representative elected body, and then what we do is try to, I appoint based demographically and geographically. So with the 9 positions, it pretty much represents the entire city space. So everybody has a representative. Bear Point has a representative. West Orange Beach has a representative. The beach has a representative. So that everybody has a say. And hopefully the others, if there's a project coming up in Bear Point, then the others are going to give credence and deference to the person who represents that area as to how it affects them and what the negatives are. They've all studied it, but they work together based on demographics and geographically.
Something, 2-part question. First part of the question is, I'm from Pensacola. I grew up there, and then I moved over here because I loved it, and I wanted to come here from Pensacola. But there are things there, I think, that are good that we can kind of learn from a little bit. What's your relationship like, being Orange Beach, being right next to Pensacola and Perdido? Do you have a good relationship with their municipality? Do you guys communicate and stuff?
Not so much now. Perdido Key is sort of between us, and they just sort of do their own thing. Now, during the oil spill, his name escapes me, but younger guy there was mayor. We worked really well together during the oil spill, working with BP on cleanup and getting restitution to our businesses. And so they were good people, and we were like-minded and moved in the same direction. So I think when there is something that there's a common interest, we can work together well. Because we both have the floor bound in common.
Yes.
So
Is there any association where mayors from the surrounding area get together or anything like that?
yeah, we have a mayor's association here in Baldwin County. It's 14 of us, I believe, and we try to have monthly or bi-monthly lunches, sit down, discuss issues, and try to work together on what's going on. And but I think it's getting to the point, and like we all know, the county's just exploding. We really need more of everybody at the table, looking at the hot spots and trying to come up with a way to find the money, because it doesn't matter where in the county the problem is, we all still suffer from it in some way or are affected by it. So I would hope that in the future we're going to be able to do more countywide discussion and working together.
One of the things that struck us about the county structure is that there's only 4 representatives, and it just seems really small.
Yeah, I totally disagree with an even number. There needs to be 5, in my humble opinion. Senator Elliott, I think, put that forward at one time.
We did see that, 2018.
Yeah, it didn't make sense how it didn't happen. Rotating annually commission president doesn't make sense, because just about the time you get in your groove and start to understanding that role, you roll out of it. And that's not the way. I've been on boards before where it's a 1-year term or a 2-year term, and as president of that board, at the end of the year, I'm just getting where I really know the system. You
Yeah.
know what I need to be doing, and
Sure.
then you roll off. So it's a very inefficient, ineffective. So at the least, there needs to be 5 with a president, or maybe 7. I think as big as Baldwin County is, 7 seats with a president makes sense to me. Yeah.
Have you seen Chris Elliott's proposal of having South Baldwin and North Baldwin and splitting off into 2 counties?
I saw that, and I don't know how much of that was just in jest. Or,
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if that was actually something that, I don't see that ever happening, and I don't see any reason I would put any energy behind it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason. I shouldn't say that. North Baldwin interest and their industry, everything about them is truly different from South Baldwin.
Sure.
And I get it from that perspective. I really do. And if that division could happen without animosity or angst, I think it could be a better and more efficient way of managing things.
Mm-hmm.
The North would then have their ability to lobby for what makes sense for them without us dragging them down because it doesn't make sense for us, et cetera, et cetera. But I think he was just throwing that out. I just don't want to speak for him, but I think he was throwing out there that trying to make the point that it's really a diverse and there's a divergence between, north of 98 and south of 98.
Yeah.
So
I got you.
I would like to see more, assuming the county doesn't split in half or anything, I would like to see more satellite offices that are countywide, some down here on the islands, because even driving to Fairhope is far. Sometimes driving to Robertsdale to go to the health department. Like, I would like to see our cities over here get some of those county annexes, I guess, a little closer.
and again, I haven't discussed it with the commission, but I think we would be perfectly willing to partner with them in some way if they wanted satellites down here, figure out a way to make that happen.
Do it.
So, yeah, I do not see a downside to it except for the cost, but I think we would partner because if it would make it easier for our residents, they don't have to get on the expressway. They don't have to go to Foley. I mean, I'm all for that, 100%.
The expressway is certainly not express as it tends to be.
It's not. So.
But I know they're in the process of, fixing that and working on it, and it's just a waiting game.
Well, I hope it comes soon. It has been
Same.
an extremely tough summer already, but for Orange Beach, we have record numbers. We had a record May. I guarantee you, we had a record 4th of July. And then on top of that, you put in all the construction traffic that's here with the summer traffic. It's just massive numbers. And I just don't know how I don't know how you build roadways and prepare for something that's 10, 15% of the year.
Sure, the law enforcement management of things like that alone is just.
It is.
Yeah,
We got 100,000 people here. How many police officers? Well, a whole bunch for 100,000 people. The good thing is we got to really being family friendly, and that's another part of the business perspective. Being family friendly, we just don't have that many problems, and we don't need a 100-person police force, which would be recommended by the FBI for that number. But I also tell people, we move iron bowl traffic every day and sometimes twice a day, because when it rains in the summer, everybody's in their cars and they're going north to the Tanger or they're going somewhere, and we manage it. And I don't know if we try to we take the traffic lights over and manage them manually because the state system cannot quite adapt quickly enough to the change in the volume of cars moving, for checkout or for rain or whatever.
Yeah.
So I got police officers at the red light with a manual switch, keeping the flow going and lengthening the phases as we need to and shortening the phases.
Okay.
So we try our best. So I want folks to know we know there's an issue certain times of the year, but we do everything we can to try to manage and make it the most efficient we possibly can.
What would you say, going back to your reelection this term, what would you say to people that are pro-term limit and just think, hey, just in terms of years, he's done a great job, but it's a term limit thing. I believe that there should be some changes.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings on term limits. I think people's discuss with everybody likes their elected official. They don't. I'm talking about federal and state, but they don't like their competitors' elected officials. So they want term limits. But for me, I think the founding fathers elections should be term limits. And if you have engaged electorate that's educated and not apathetic, then elections serve their purpose, and you're going to keep the right people in there, and the wrong people will go. But we don't have an engaged electorate now. You know, I mean, everybody is too busy doing other stuff than to pay attention. So for me, when I hear somebody say, well, it's time for a change, I say, that's great, but please define what change means. The change, for the sake of change, absolutely makes no sense, because you don't do that in business. You don't change CEOs of a super successful $100 million company just because they've been there 3 years. You'd only change that CEO if they're not doing a good job. But if that CEO is doing a great job, he may be there 30 years.
Sure.
So that's the way I look at a city. I am the CEO of a $100 million company with 700 employees, and I look at it from a mayor's perspective, a candidate's perspective, and from a resident's perspective. The job I've done, and it's really uncomfortable when you feel like you're slapping yourself on the back, but I've learned you sort of have to do that. But I feel like the job that I've done, and all the people around me and the wonderful department heads and employees we got, I don't know why you'd want to change it. I don't. And I'm saying that from a resident's perspective. Why would you want to fix something that's not broken? And to this day, I do not understand that. Because my opponent cannot express and cannot lay out a platform other than change. And that's it. There's just nothing there that he can lay out. So that is frustrating, very frustrating. And that's why it's really funny. It's just like every election cycle, I never get attacked for my track record. I never get attacked for my performance, for our accomplishments. It's always personal. It's always something very embarrassing and personal that someone comes up with. But in my mind, if you're paying attention, that ought to tell you that the other side has nothing and can offer nothing except try to destroy you, or was it character assassination? And that's not good. And for me, as a resident, that's embarrassing for our city. And anyone that would allow that to happen or be part of that or not condemn it, then in my humble opinion, they don't fit for leadership. So I'm trying to run strictly on my record alone.
And I think leaders in general have to be able to handle conflict well and not be afraid to go talk to people that disagree with them. And that's what I like about you, and I like about City of Orange Beach, is that you're willing to go out and talk to people. You have your cell phone number available for anyone, really. And, you know, when I've tried to reach out to different governments, I haven't had responses at all a lot of the time. And, you know, for me, running my platform too, I have it broken down by issue. And I was like, I don't even care in the end, like, who gets the things done. I just want whoever wins to take the platform points and to make them go into action, to have the ideas in place. I don't care who gets the glory necessarily. And I think if more people, you're talking about an electorate that's not engaged, is absolutely true too. At least in Gulf Shores, we had, you know, 2,600 votes out of 17,000 residents. And of that, like 200 and under were under the age of 40. It's just ridiculous how low. And then staggering these municipal elections against the presidential term makes it even like a little more worrisome. I think that people don't even know there's a vote a lot of the time. So that's something that I would like to see people, it's kind of why we started the podcast, to get more engaged, to actually pay attention to what's going on and to be informed and be willing to disagree and talk about things, because it's just something people get really uncomfortable and they're like, oh, I don't want to even go on there or talk or speak to her at all because I don't agree. And I was like, well, you know, how do you get anything done if you're not willing to come to the table?
Yeah, I understand. And a knock that some folks have on me is that I'm a fighter. I'm always looking to pick a fight. I'm always, and to some degree that's true, because I will never let somebody else win at Orange Beach's expense. And sometimes you have to be a fighter. But the diplomacy that I affect almost on a daily basis is never recognized, because it's always behind the scene. Because so much is done through diplomacy that people have no idea that I'm getting done or doing. But all they see is that red-faced mayor who's upset with the state of this or that. And, you know, I've learned there's in negotiations you either have leverage for votes or relationships, both, or you just negotiate the best butt whipping you can, because you don't have it, you're in trouble. So what I've learned is we don't have the votes. I have made relationships, and I think that's something that's important that I'm running. For 17 years, I've made relationships from the oil spill all the way through, and that really help our city. But I have to use PR as leverage to move the needle in our direction. And when you're a statesman or call yourself a statesman or a diplomat, well, you don't understand that. That's just code for I want to be liked, and I have higher aspirations for another office. So no, sometimes you have to get upset. You have to fight. And
I can relate to that.
that's the way it is. Yeah. And I don't run from that, and I wear it as a badge of honor because I will never ever, like I said, let someone else win at Orange Beach's expense without putting up a fight.
I am so personally so tired of people saying, "Oh, these people are difficult because they stand up for themselves or their family or their community." Like, wouldn't you want a leader who stands up for themselves and their family and their community and is willing to say no, a hard no or a hard yes, or defend your own honor in a way? Because it's just now it's looked down upon by some people to even just stand up and have a backbone, and I don't agree with that at all.
Well, believe me, I know that feeling, and I don't, it's tough. It really is tough. But I'm a businessman and a public servant. I make decisions that are logical and reasonable and based on fact. And if that makes someone else mad, then so be it. I can't apologize for that. But just when you start making decisions on, what's the polls say, or, what's my relationship with this city and that city, so in case I run for another office upstream, I got to make sure I haven't made them mad so they'll all vote for me. Yeah. I don't care because I'm not going anywhere. I have no desire to be upstream. So I'm going to continue to be who I am, and like I said, I'm a known quantity. They know what they're getting, and if they're tired of me, it's funny. Everybody likes a blunt and frank politician as long as they're being blunt and frank with someone else.
That's exactly it.
So,
I was just saying that the other day. I was like, well, you love it when the president does it, but when I say something outright, you're like, no, don't do that.
Yep.
I'm like, why does it apply to him but not me?
well, and I try to be blunt and frank because that's honesty, and I don't want to give a mealy-mouthed answer. I don't want to give an open-ended answer. My answer is going to be this, or I don't know, but I'm going to find out, and I'm going to get back with you, and I give them a timeline. And if we don't meet that timeline, I'm going to call them back and say, I'm sorry, we didn't meet the timeline. Here's why. Set a new timeline. But I never want anything that someone needs from me or asking me to go into a black hole that they don't get an answer. And that's another reason I give out my cell phone. I want people to have access, because it's so much easier for them to just pick the phone up and call me. And I generally can get on it right then as opposed to a meeting or trying to do it in a meeting. It works for me. Yeah. And for the last several years, I spend 2 to 3 hours every morning at the fitness center because that's sort of like the old country Hardee's where everybody gathered for coffee and biscuits. So, but now everybody in town knows that's where I'm at every morning, and so they come by there, questions, problems, and we can generally solve it right there at the table, or I'll get back with them. So I actually get more done at the fitness center than I do in any of my offices anywhere. But everybody knows where I'm at. And then I get a workout in a little bit too. So
I will say, in my 16 years playing music around the area, you're the only one I've seen in administration in either of the two municipalities out and about and engaging and actually doing things.
Well, we really do try. We're generally out 3, 4, 5 nights a week because there is an event, an anniversary, a wedding, a celebration, Mardi Gras, something going on every night of the week, and I try to get to as many as I possibly can to show the elected body support for those folks and appreciation for those folks. Because I think that's my job. That's what I should be doing.
You would hope that a mayor would show up and be present to things. Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
I appreciate that. I try my best. I try my best to get to everything I can.
What would you say to, so being so transparent, I feel like it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes I wonder, how do you cope with that, like sometimes turning negative or people negatively lashing out at you because you're so transparent and that accessibility? Has that ever backfired in a way, and how would you cope with that?
Most people in Orange Beach are very respectful. You always have that 10, 15, 20% that are just unhappy. They're miserable, and if they're not making somebody else miserable, then they're not happy. Right. And social media has given them a tool to be louder than they actually are and get really ugly. And that's what's so hard to deal with. And good people just don't want to be involved in public service. That bothers me because of how ugly it gets. And but I lived a heathen life 35, 40. I mean, I'm talking, they could do a sleazy made from TV Hallmark movie about how bad I was. So I tell them, I say, you don't have to make up this stuff. All you gotta do is call me. I'll give you all the stories I want, because I have so many skeletons in my closet you can't close the door. But at the same time, it is a testimony for God that as bad as I was, He's trying to take something really bad and use it for good in some ways, and I'm still flawed and I still mess up. But some of the stuff, just the ugly stuff that's just made up really hurts and it really bothers you. But you just, if you're going to be in the office, you just sort of have to accept it. Yeah. Something that bothers me too is something happens or somebody says something and somebody will say something, oh, that's just politics. No, it's just wrong. I mean, wrong is not forgiven just because it's politics. So you don't teach your kid to do that. You would never stand for that. So why is it okay in politics? Yeah. So that's something that really bothers me. And then the other thing is people say, well, you need to get a tougher skin. No, I don't want a tougher skin. If I get a tougher skin, then I'm a politician. And I don't want to be a politician. I want to feel empathy and sympathy. I want to have anger. I just don't want to be numb to what the electorate says.
And it's interesting how people say that you don't have a thick skin if you dare stand up for yourself and you don't just take it and be silent.
And I can't do that.
I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand that.
I do not. I don't either.
I'll write checks with this mouth all day.
I understand that. I wasn't raised that way. You know, my dad said, boy, you walk away every time you can. You try to always be the better man, but sometimes you got to throw a punch. And he was right. Sometimes there's just like,
sometimes you can't talk.
That's right. And I use that more in a metaphorical sense, not a physical punch in today's world. But metaphorically, you just can't. There's some people you can't be diplomatic or a statesman with. You've got to throw that metaphorical punch to get your leverage or create leverage to protect what you're trying to protect.
We came up with a saying: sometimes you have to be absurd to be heard.
Exactly. Well, I call it. I'm really good at throwing hand grenades, and you throw hand grenades out there that others won't, but the hand grenades always gets the discussion going. And sometimes it's a discussion that people are fearful of, want to run from, or don't want to have, but it needs to be had. Somebody's got to start.
And you just rip off that Band-Aid.
Exactly, and that's maybe one of the things I'm actually good at. Is I'm pretty good at throwing hand grenades and getting discussion started. But I'm also good at being the dumbest one at the table. Because as long as I'm surrounded by really smart people, and I am, then it makes me look smart. And that's my goal, is to always have smarter people around me. And man, I'm telling you, my department heads and the folks in our city are second to none. Second to none.
Shout out to Mark. He's awesome.
Mark Anderson,
Yes.
yeah, he doesn't miss a beat.
For those, I don't know if I said this earlier, but I had reached out to all the cities. I've talked about that in a series of my videos, but Orange Beach was the first people to reply and invite me in and show me the city hall and tell me about the amenities, and my own city didn't even do that. And it was very different to me because in Pensacola I received, an open invitation to a lot of things, and I came to Baldwin County and started being like, where in the county can I actually go to learn and to engage? And certain cities, it almost feels like they don't want you to engage, that they're kind of like behind the curtain. But Orange Beach definitely isn't like that. It is a place where it was very welcoming and transparent, and to be honest, that was the top city in Baldwin County that I felt that way about, and I looked at all of them.
Well, thank you for that. That's a huge compliment, because we pride ourselves on customer service. And I tell folks all the time, my job is not rocket science. It's not. It's just doing what mom and daddy taught you and treating people right. That's all it is, common sense. And you do that, you're going to be fine. And I thank goodness for the mom and dad I had that taught me to treat people right. So.
Yeah, and the thick skin, going back to that, that's funny because they say that to me too. And they're like, oh, get a thick skin. And, this person's such a nice person. Why can't you be nice like them or whatever? And I'm like, I don't think anything I'm particularly doing is mean by standing up for values and what you believe in. It's not like I've never personally attacked anybody or anything, but just standing up for yourself, you become labeled as difficult sometimes. It's like, well, if you didn't give me a reason to try to want to stand up for myself, it's hard. Like when you're being attacked, to just sit there and take it. I don't think anybody should have to do that. And it's funny too, because in local politics, it kind of seems petty. My background, I went to the Middle East and I did conflict resolution between Israeli, Palestinian, different religions. I did religious conflict mediation. And I always think about that. I'm like, if I could do that where like real conflicts existed, this stuff seems like very small potatoes compared to that. And I just try to keep perspective because, you know, it seems so small, like fighting about a traffic light or whatever, but it's really big and important to the people here. And I think things like that need to be held in perspective and people can stand up for their beliefs in that and shouldn't be labeled as difficult or arrogant or, you know, mean because they believe a light should be there or whatever it is they're fighting for.
Well, it's funny. I did something, I can't remember what it was. No, it was like last Tuesday with Tony, and somebody was talking and said, "You need to smile more." And I'm thinking, well, when I see somebody smiling all the time, that gives me cause to wonder why, because it's not natural. But number two is when I'm talking business and I'm dealing with issues, I'm not focused on trying to smile. I'm focused on the issues because it's serious business. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a bit curious that their only comment was that I didn't smile enough. And I think the person was actually trying to be helpful, but I'm just telling you, I don't.
It never
When
is.
I'm focused, I'm not smiling, so y'all forgive me.
Same on stage. People tell me all the time, "You need to smile." While I'm playing, I'm thinking.
Exactly. So, but I worry about someone that smiles all the time.
Yeah.
I gotta worry
Especially
about
if they get
it.
those Kenneth Copeland eyes.
Yeah. Oh, I get you. Yeah. But you know, I've enjoyed my time as mayor, and you know, I'm a physical therapist. I guess y'all knew that, but I sold my practice because I had this change of heart that, you know, I had a great practice, and back then I called myself Mercedes Rich, and then I went into public service, and now I'm Yugo Rich. But I'm much more fulfilled and content because I feel like I can make a difference in people's lives, and I'm not just trying to collect stuff. Yeah. So I really do enjoy what I do, and hopefully people know that I'm doing it for the right reason, not for self-grandization or anything of that nature, but I just want to help and protect our community.
Do you want to tell people where they can reach out to contact you or where they can follow your campaign and how they can support you?
Sure. Glad you're here, baby. This is my daughter. My daughter's over in the corner. What's the campaign?
KennonForMayor.com.
Tony Kennon?
Kennon for Mayor.
Kennon, number 4?
I'm gonna double check. You might pick up something
Yeah.
good.
I
I've looked
am,
at so many things.
I am computer illiterate and plan on staying that way. So I have an IT
good way to be.
department. I'm telling you.
It is Kennon for Mayor, all words. No,
Right. KennonForMayor.com. All words, not the number 4. I think that was my last one. KENNONFOR Mayor. That's my mayor website where you can donate, because this is not cheap to run for mayor. It costs money, but we appreciate any support. And my cell phone is 251-747-8282. 251-747-8282. And you're welcome to call me for any reason. You're never bothering me. That's what I do, and I actually appreciate the calls.
And just for the people watching, I reached out to see if he would do the podcast because I reached out to every candidate and everyone in office, and you can see who responded and who didn't. A week later, here he is doing the podcast out here with us. I just think that says a lot about accessibility. There was no secretary. There was no, oh, let me get with my team and discuss it. It was sure, would love to, and here he is talking to us. So keep that in mind if you're out there and you said you wanted to do it, but you were waiting on your team or you were like tiptoeing around. Mayor Tony came and did it.
Well, my team is my daughter, so she gave me permission. So, but this is easy, and I am so appreciative of the opportunity to sit here and talk with you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming. And guys, check out his website, KennonForMayor.com, and vote on August 26th.
Please.